Hi, everybody. Wanted to jump on here really quick and share a word of motivation and encouragement that I feel God dropped in my heart for myself, but also for you that I'm sharing this with today. Wanted to start out by asking the question, do you feel like right now you're in a time of your life where you feel like you're at a complete standstill, really can't move forward, and it's frustrating? You don't quite know why you're in this standstill, or you do know why you're in this standstill, but you just can't figure out how to get out of it. I wanted to speak to you today and encourage you today, as these different things has encouraged me to move forward. Some things hold us back that comes from our past, how we think, how we've processed things, how we've believed about ourselves, how other people have caused us to believe. And I wrote down a few notes so that I can stay focused and keep this quick and to the point, because I know you live really busy lives. But I wanted to take this time to address more the things from our past and the experiences of our past that cause us to feel like we're at a complete standstill and we can't move forward. And I wanted to entitle this quick word of encouragement, are you in a holding pattern of your past? Are you in a holding pattern of your past? I wanted to start by reading Philippians 3:13. And it says, "Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead." Reaching forward. When you read that scripture, pressing toward a goal, you can think of a runner, When you're reaching forward, you shouldn't be standing still and you're reaching forward. You should be moving and reaching forward like a runner when they're reaching out with the baton to pass it to the next person so that they can win, and take home the prize. That is more what should be in our mind when we're talking about Philippians 3:13. Again, I'm going to read it again. "Brethren, I do not count myself to have apprehended, but one thing I do, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead." Now, I was thinking about that forgetting word. I love definition because there's so much revelation in definition. And when you define the word forgetting, is to cease or fail to remember or unable to recall. And when I was looking at that, sometimes forgetting is defined where it's unintentional. But it's a whole other thing when you have to forget something, like what the Apostle Paul is saying here in Philippians, intentionally. When you have to intentionally forget something that hurt you, discouraged you, where you like, I won't be messing with that person ever again the way they hurt me. The pain that comes from it. Now, forgetting something doesn't mean you keep allowing something to occur that someone did to you. Forgetting something just means that you cease to remember it, because in the end game, all it does is imprison you in your own prison of hurt, pain, discouragement, and it doesn't really do anything to the other person who inflicted this pain upon you. So forgetting it is not, if you're anything like me, when you grew up being a punk or being a pushover, where you're allowing someone to get away with something that they did to you. But what you're doing is you're not allowing it to become something that is infectious in you and begins to tear you down and begins to eat away at you as a person. But I wanted to talk a little bit about different parts of our past, those things that hurt, those things we believe that someone else said about us, those things we experienced that made us think we weren't enough when we're more than enough. And sometimes we believe those things and it begins to stay in here, and we don't believe we can go past what's here. And you can go past what's here if you get what's here out and you begin to embrace the truth of who you are and not what has been lies about who you are based on who you were and who someone else said you were. So a holding pattern, when you think of it, it's like a flight path. that's maintained by an aircraft is waiting to land, but it's waiting for permission to land. And some of us are in those holding patterns, and we're waiting for permission to move on from those things that hurt us in the past, from those things we believed were good for us that wasn't, from those things that we believed about ourselves. And we're waiting for permission from someone to land and to move forward. And you don't need permission from someone. You have to permit yourself to land and come out of that holding pattern of your past. Because the only person holding you back at this point is yourself. Because God says you can do all things through him who gives you strength. We can do all things through Christ. So with that said, God has already released you from the holding pattern, but have you released yourself from the holding pattern of your past, the shame even? I'm trying to cover different things and different experiences of our past, because there's different levels in our past that hold us back. Some of the things people said to us, some of the things as a result we believed, family members that mean well, they always called you big head and you believed it, and eventually it became a complex in your life, which is why we have to be careful, because our words have power. Sometimes in our culture, we like to crack jokes. For those who don't understand what I mean by crack, we like to crack jokes on our family members, our siblings, and you're like, they know I'm playing, they know I love them. And they're laughing in the moment, but they may begin to believe what it is that you are joking about themselves, and develop a complex about themselves. And they spend a lot of their life, and I spent a lot of my life trying to prove otherwise. And what you begin to do is live in this false freedom, this falsehood of confidence that I know I'm this person. I have this self-confidence in myself. I know I'm this. But what you really do is competing with the ideals of your past that someone else said about you, that someone else believed about you. And there's a freedom in the way that you're doing it, in the way you're saying it, because it feels like I am in control of my life now, when in fact, you're still in bondage to that thing that someone said about you, that thing you believed about yourself, because you're spending a lifetime proving otherwise and proving the opposite of what they said about you. Who are you trying to prove anything to at that point? And that in itself puts us in a holding pattern, in a place where we can't move forward, because we're not truly moving forward. We're truly staying where we are, because we're spending all of our talent, all of our time, all of our creativity on proving something to be false that God already proved in what he did on the cross for us. He said, you're more than enough. You are a royal priesthood. You're royalty. And until you believe it and move from believing it to knowing it, we stay where we are. And so I just wanted to jump on here really quick to encourage you that we have to move on from our past. And when you also look at the definition of a holding pattern, it's also a period of no progress or change. You're just going around the mountain like the children of Israel, never really accomplishing or entering into who and everything that you are, because you just keep looking back at the past. I remember my husband preached a message where he said, when you look in the rearview mirror, it's to see what was behind you, to remind yourself where you came from. But if you constantly look in that rearview mirror the whole time while you're driving, you're going to crash, because you're living back there and you're not living in your now with a quick reminder of where you came from. So I encourage each and every one of us today, I'm taking this for myself, that who you believed you were based on what someone else said, who you believe now that you are based on what someone else said, if God didn't say it, you may need to reevaluate if there's anything that's keeping you from being who you are. Now, if they said things that more push you toward who you really are, that's different. That's encouragement. But if you're holding yourself in a place of shame, in a place of who you were, who you never became, it's time to move on and come out of that holding pattern. It's time to give yourself the permission to land and do something completely new and move into what you should have already been doing. It's never too late. It's never too late. Be encouraged in that. The things of our past are crippling. It can be very crippling, especially when you've had negative experiences from your past. It can be very crippling. And even when you've had positive experiences in your past, it can be very crippling because we allow even that to define us. Oh, back in the day, it used to be like this and that. And it's cool to reminisce on those things. But when we stay stuck reminiscing on those things, we can't see the goodness of God that's in our future as if it's all over. Like we've experienced the best parts that we will experience. That's not true. What is ahead of you is the best parts. And will even supersede what you've lived in your greater years. If you know and believe it. And if you allow God to do what he's planning to do in your life. And this quote I wrote that I'm going to leave you with is, moving forward and away from or towards something takes motion. If you are still standing in the same spot, you are not moving. You're at a standstill. So we want to find ways to move toward where we want to see ourselves, where we see ourselves and how God sees us and where he sees us, and no longer allow ourselves to stay in this holding pattern of our past that is very crippling and hindering us from being everything that God has called us to be. You have not even tapped into the fullness of who you truly are and all you truly possess on the inside of you. Don't think I've lived my best life. The best is yet to come. The Bible says, remember ye not the former things, nor the things of old. I will do a new thing. The best is yet to come. Your latter will be greater than your former. I love y'all. I hope this blesses you. Have a good day.